The Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tabled the economic survey document in Parliament on Friday, January 31st. Well, according to the survey, India's FY26 GDP growth is expected in the range of 6.3 to 6.8% amid global uncertainty. A lot of things were discussed in the survey. Now, the survey expects inflation to remain under control, while consumption could remain stable. That's what the survey says. It also expects rural demand to gain traction going forward. Hello, my name is Abhinav Trivedi and you're watching Live Mint. So here are the top 10 key highlights of the economic survey of 2025. Let's take a look. The first highlight is that the Indian economy is to remain stable. Now, the survey pointed out that despite global uncertainty, India's real GDP growth of 6.4% in FY25 as per first advanced estimates of national income remains close to the decadal average. The survey says, and I quote, keeping in mind the upsides and downsides to growth, real GDP growth in FY26 is expected to be between 6.3 and 6.8%. From an aggregate supply perspective, real gross value is also estimated to grow by 6.4% in the financial year 2025. The next highlight is that all sectors are contributing to growth. You heard that right. As per the survey document, all sectors are performing well. The survey says that the agriculture sector remains strong, consistently operating well above trend levels. The industrial sector has also found its footing above the pre-pandemic trajectory. The robust growth rate in recent years has brought the services sector to its trend levels. Next, of course, the survey addresses the bone of contention, inflation. Now, as per the survey, inflation is gradually coming under control. The survey pointed out that retail headline inflation softened from 5.4% in FY24 to 4.9% in April to December 24 due to various government initiatives and monetary policy measures. The survey noted that supply chain disruptions, extreme weather conditions, and consequent reduced harvest were key factors which were driving India's food inflation. Well, by now we already know that. The survey quotes that despite challenges, there are positive signs for inflation management in India. The RBI and the IMF project that India's consumer price inflation will gradually align with the target of around 4% in FY26. The next highlight was the stable financial sector. The survey highlighted a consistent decline in the gross non-performing assets ratio of commercial banks. The survey says, and I quote, the gross non-performing assets ratio of scheduled commercial banks has declined consistently from its peak in FY18 to a low of 2.6% at the end of September 2024. Besides, the survey underscored that the credit GDP gap narrowed to minus 0.3% in the first quarter of FY25 from minus 10.3% in Q1 FY23, indicating that the recent growth in bank credit is sustainable. Well, opinions might be divided on that, but that's what the survey says. Next highlight was the external trade has been revived. FDI has revived in the financial year 2025 according to the survey. Now, according to the survey, India's gross foreign direct investment inflows revived in FY25, increasing from $47.2 billion in the first 8 months of FY24 to $55.6 billion in the same period in FY25. That's a growth rate of 17.9% annually. Economic Survey 2025 highlighted the resilience of the exports sector. It mentioned that the overall exports have grown steadily in the first 9 months of FY25, witnessing a year-on-year growth of 6%. Now, India's external debt has remained stable over the past few years, according to the survey, with the external debt to GDP ratio standing at 19.4% at the end of September 2024. The sixth highlight is that survey bats for deregulation. The economic survey exhorts assessing India's medium-term growth outlook in the context of new global realities, such as geo-economic fragmentation and China's manufacturing prowess. The survey emphasized that the way forward for India is to reinvigorate the internal engines and domestic growth levers and focus on economic freedom. The focus of reforms and economic policy must now be on a systematic deregulation as the key agenda under ease of doing business. The next highlight is the focus on investment and infrastructure. Now, the survey underscored that India's growth plans for the next decade require a large investment in infrastructure. The survey highlighted that the union government's capital expenditure on key infrastructure sectors has grown at a rate of 38.8% from FY20 to FY24. And that in FY25, following the electoral process, capex picked up momentum between July and November 2024. The next highlight is, of course, electricity construction drive industrial growth. According to the survey, the industrial sector grew by 6.2% in the financial year 25 as per the first advanced estimates of GDP driven by robust growth in electricity and construction. The survey mentioned that domestic production of electronic goods has grown at a growth rate of 17.5% from FY15 to FY24. The export of textiles and apparels, including handicrafts, were valued at almost $36 billion in FY24. The total annual turnover of pharma in FY24 was 4.17 lakh crore rupees, growing at an average rate of 10.1% in the last 5 years. Next highlight was the skill development key for services. Well, the survey underscored the fact that the service sector's contribution to the total GVA has risen from 50.6% in FY14 to 55.3% in FY25. The survey emphasized prioritizing skill development for the labor force and revising complex grassroots level procedures and regulations as two key interventions for the growth of manufacturing and services sector. The last highlight was, of course, agriculture and food management sectors. Terming the agriculture and allied activities sector as the backbone of the Indian economy, the survey highlighted this sector contributes approximately 16% of the country's GDP. The survey underscored government initiatives such as increasing MSP, providing credit support to all farmers through the Kisan Credit Card, and modifying interest subvention scheme, among others, and schemes such as the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana to boost the agriculture and food processing sector. Well, these were the highlights of the economic survey. We will find a mention of all these pointers in the union budget. That's what expected, in addition to AI and mental health. That was also highlighted in the economic survey. Stay tuned to Live Mint on the budget day.